You're listening to Kaio Conversations, a podcast about anything and everything that matters to Chi Omegas.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for streaming the latest episode of our podcast, Kaio Conversations. I'm Rachel Abrams, and I am the Chief Experience Officer for Chi Omega. Today, we are joined by our newest member of Chi Omega's Supreme Governing Council, Kelly Bingel. Kelly was selected as S.T.B. National Vice President during Convention 2024, but before she joined the Governing Council, she had a long history of dedicated service to our sisterhood. Previously, Kelly has held the Chi Omega titles of National Leadership Consultant, National Recruitment Team Member, Co-Chair of the Chi Omega Foundation 1895 Society, Government Relations Committee Member, Eta Lambda Advisor at American University, and Foundation Trustee. In addition to being a super sister, Kelly has worked professionally as a newspaper reporter, congressional staff member, and entrepreneur alongside her husband, Thad. Kelly, it's so good to talk to you again, and welcome to Kaio Conversations.
Thanks, Rachel. It's great to be with you today.
So before we really get started, I'd like to take some time for our audience to personally get to know their S.T.B. a little bit better in a segment we call About Me in 60. So you're going to get 60 seconds to tell us a little bit about where you are today, what you're working on currently, and something fun and unique people would be surprised to know about you. Ready to give it a go?
So I owe my entire career to Chi Omega. Literally every transition in my career, there was a Chi Omega there to help me with networking, in some cases to hire me. And so you can't really talk about Kelly Bingel as a professional without talking about Chi Omega. I'm married and went to law school at the suggestion of my Chi Omega sister, Senator Blanche Lincoln. That's where I met my husband. We have two awesome children. My daughter's a junior at NYU, and my son graduated from the University of Georgia. So some of the things I'm up to today are scuba diving, doing yoga, playing golf. Those are all activities for a retired person. So I'm serving on the governing council. For me, the timing is perfect because in my previous careers, I couldn't have done what many of our governing council members do, which is they have full-time careers and they raise their children and they serve on the governing council. My careers always required more from me than I could give anything else to Chi Omega. And so this is a sweet spot for me right now in retirement. I'm doing as much as I can do outdoors. I love being outside, and I'm doing a lot of travel.
So this July, it'll be 1 year serving on the Supreme Governing Council. What has serving as the S.T.B. been like for you? And what are you most excited about the next year ahead?
It is an honor to wear the badge of the S.T.B. I think we all feel that way. The largest national women's organization in the country. It's an honor to serve as an officer of Chi Omega. And I look forward to our quarterly meetings. We get together in person quarterly. I love those. Love seeing everybody in person. We do Zoom meetings once a month. And every week, something that I think a lot of people don't know is that each member of the governing council spends an hour or so on the phone with a couple of the regional directors talking about our chapters. I'm very focused on the 40-something chapters in the regions that I focus on. And that's a real highlight for me, getting to talk to those regional directors once a week.
Mm-hmm. And I know that they love working with you too. So as the newest member, would love to hear some tea. What do you all think the people would be surprised to learn about the members of the Governing Council and what you've enjoyed most about serving with them?
I think most people are surprised to know that we're all volunteers, 100% volunteers. None of us are paid. And that's surprise number one for a lot of people. Surprise number two is that when we're together in our meetings, we meet from, I would say, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. nonstop. We have every meal at the table with us as we're just churning through all of the things that we discuss. So I think people would be surprised to know that we all invest that much time. But it is an honor to invest that much time in something that has given so much to me.
Absolutely. And I know from personal experience walking into that boardroom and being in there and working with you all, you would never guess this is a volunteer role. I mean, it feels like a huge corporation and you all, are that board. And I mean, like this is your full-time job. And I know it can be. So Kelly, you've done so much for Chi Omega long before you became S.T.B. Before we talk about your service roles, I'd love to go back to the beginning of your Chi Omega story in a segment we call Why Go Chi-O. So you're a Phi Gamma from LSU. Huge recruitment process. Tell us about that and what it was like for you, and how did Chi Omega capture your heart?
Well, it is a huge process, and the sorority houses at LSU are all together in a row on beautiful lakes, mm-hmm. and recruitment takes place in August, so it's very, very hot. I can still remember standing outside in those group of potential new members before going into each house, and that was the time when we did skits and a lot of singing. And my sister was an active in the Chi Omega house. She was a senior when I was going through recruitment. But she gave me the speech that I think all mothers and daughters give their legacies, which is, I want you to go make your own decision. So I walked into the preference party at Chi Omega, thank goodness it was last, and told my sister that I was going tried out. And she did what we would call dirty rushing, which is she said, no, you're not. And she pulled all of the women that had been cheerleaders with me in our high school. They all surrounded me and they explained to me why Chi Omega was where I needed to be. And thank goodness they did, because they were right. Chi Omega was exactly where I needed to be. But I can say without question that I probably wouldn't be a Chi Omega but for my sister and those women that I went to high school with.
Those big sister instincts, and also that big sister pressure and influence for sure.
Absolutely.
I love that. And I know the Phi Gammas have such Phi Gamma pride. I know LSU is also a school that has so much pride. So what would you tell a potential new member who's considering going through recruitment today? Why go Chi-O in 2025?
Why go Chi-O in 2025? There is no organization that trains young leaders better than Chi Omega. If you want to be a success professionally, you need to be a Chi Omega, because we have tremendous leadership training available for you, both within your chapter and then nationally. The Nancy Walton Morgan Leadership Institute does tremendous weekend trainings that obviously it's not available to everyone, but we can send those leadership training little segments into your chapter. And so professionally, that's reason number one. Number two, really, number one, our number one purpose is fun. That is our number one purpose, fun. And nobody's more fun than a bunch of Chi Omega sisters. We share similar values, and we are sisters inspired by our fraternity who serve the world while keeping Chi Omega ever at heart. And what inspires us? Well, it's the symphony: to be womanly always, to be discouraged never. In a word, to be loyal under any and all circumstances. And my experience as both a lobbyist, I was the only woman partner in my lobbying firm. I was one of a handful of chiefs of staff in the United States Senate. And what prepared me for those experiences was my training in Chi Omega.
I love hearing that, Kelly. So talking about sort of your experiences before being S.T.B on the governing council, we have a segment we call 2020. So as you reflect on how far you've come professionally and personally within your leadership roles in Chi Omega, when you were starting out at LSU, is this what you pictured your life to be like? What has this journey taught you?
I have an expression, don't let your good get in the way of God's great. There is always a plan that's so much greater than anything I could envision for myself. I didn't know what a Capitol Hill staffer did when I was in college. I didn't know what a lobbyist did. I'm not sure I'd ever heard of a lobbyist. I didn't know that there were women who started businesses. All of the things that I've been able to do professionally, I hadn't envisioned doing any of them. When I was sitting in the Chi Omega house studying for exams, I was studying to be a newspaper reporter. I had seen movies about foreign war correspondents, and I had seen movies about journalists who went out and made a difference. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a difference in our world. And at the time that I was in college, I thought that the way that I can make a difference was by being a newspaper reporter and by covering what was going on in the world and informing other people. And that's what I did at the beginning of my career. After I traveled as a national leadership consultant, I was a newspaper reporter for a couple of years. What I didn't know was that reporting, developing sources, learning to talk to anybody, talk to strangers, which I had done both as a national leadership consultant and then again as a newspaper reporter. I didn't realize that those skill sets were then going to take me to the next part of my career as a Capitol Hill staffer and as a lobbyist. I couldn't have envisioned any of those things. And I would say to our collegiate sisters, our world is changing so quickly. And what's important, rather than thinking about a specific career, is thinking about who are the types of people I want to surround myself with. What do I want to put back into the stream of life? What are my skill sets? What can I offer? And then sort of be open to the possibility for the career options that will come from that.
And it sounds like, the Hill was not your end goal. You were open to the experiences, and that's sort of how you got there. So do you think Chi Omega prepared you for serving on the Hill, or did the Hill help prepare you to serve on the governing council?
All of the above, absolutely. Did Chi Omega prepare me for being a journalist or being a lobbyist? Did Chi Omega teach me how to talk to people? Well, that's what recruitment is. Recruitment, all that conversation skills training that we do during recruitment workshop, that is all training for your professional career. How do you talk to a complete stranger? How do you pull from another person information that will enable you to move your relationship to the next level? Those recruitment skills are the same skills that I use professionally. Absolutely. Addition to the fact that, the woman that I worked for in Congress was a Chi Omega. So did Chi Omega prepare me to meet her? Absolutely. When I got my job because I lost a job. This is actually a great story. I was a newspaper reporter, and the newspaper sent me to Washington to cover Capitol Hill. So that was my first exposure to Washington, D.C., was as a newspaper reporter. And I was only in Washington for 2 months when the newspaper called me back, and then the newspaper folded. So as a 25-year-old, I lost my job, but really what was harder was seeing every person who had spent their career in that newspaper, they all lost their jobs. I was 25 and single, and it's a little bit easier to rebound, but I watched people with families and mortgages all lose their jobs. And so I was actually in DC interviewing for newspaper reporting jobs when a congressman that I covered said, "Oh, you're too nice to be a newspaper reporter. Blanche is looking for a press secretary." So he gave her my resume on the floor of the House of Representatives. And Blanche looked at my resume, and she didn't say, "Oh, she's a Phi Beta Kappa." She said, "Oh, she's a Chi Omega." And that's how I got my interview.
I love that. You have worn so many hats. I'd love to talk to you about your experience as an entrepreneur. You have 2 very different companies. What have you enjoyed about being a business owner, and would you do it again?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would say to anybody who's thinking about starting a business, do it. You won't regret it. I had the benefit of having a job when I started my business. So one thing about starting a small business is that you can't rely on that income stream right away to pay your bills. So, you've always heard the expression, it's easier to find a job when you have a job. And the same was true. It's easier to start a business when you have another job, which was the case for me. But I've started a couple of businesses and also have invested in some small businesses. And what I like to invest in people with good ideas.
So with that in mind, what advice do you have for new or recent Chi Omega alumni who are just starting their career? How can they be successful, get out there on their own?
Well, you have to do exactly what you did during recruitment. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and have conversations. And we've made it so easy for you with Chi Omega because we now have Chi Omega and Company. When I was first which is basically LinkedIn for Chi Omegas only. When I was networking with Chi Omegas, we had a big red book that was about this thick, and it listed every Chi Omega. You could cross-reference by city or by profession. And that was how I started networking when I was first out of college. But now you don't have to carry around a big red book. You can just go on Chi O and Company, create your profile. You can actually import your LinkedIn profile directly into Chi O and Company. And then you can start networking right away with other Chi Omegas in your fields. And you don't have to wait till you graduate. You should be doing that your junior and senior year. If you're thinking about going to med school, well, go ahead and connect with a Chi Omega doctor now. ask her about med school. Ask her about taking the MCAT. Get her advice about where you should think about going in med school or maybe your residency. The same for lawyers or, small business owners. On Kaio and Company, you can find every profession, and you can reach out to those sisters who are dying to offer you advice.
I love that. And Kelly, I think I've seen some of those big red books in the archives at the executive headquarters. We've come a long way.
They were heavy, and I can't imagine the postage on those things.
Well, Kelly, you're clearly a woman of many talents, from journalism to leading a staff on the Hill and owning your own businesses. But I bet there's a little bit more that we still don't know. So I would love if you would share a talent that you have with us, a talent that most people don't know about, and teach us your ways. It can be anything from writing a great headline to leading difficult conversations to a special hobby you have. Anything. What would you like to show us today?
Okay. Well, I bet most people don't know that I'm a scuba diver. I love scuba diving. I just got certified for an advanced open water certification, which means that I can now dive, 100 feet deep and dive into wrecks. I love being underwater in the ocean where it's very quiet, and I love the parrotfish are my favorite. I love colorful fish. Love being out in the water. So that's one. The other thing that I think most people don't know about me is that I'm really an introvert. I think I present as an extrovert, but really I'm an introvert. I'm most comfortable in the quiet, scuba diving or doing yoga or reading a book. And when I walk into a party of 100 people, I'm really feeling incredibly shy. I really feel like 5-year-old Kelly. And, I have to sort of change my mindset when I walk into a situation like that. And what I'll usually do is look around the room and I'll look for who nobody's talking to. And I'll go talk to that person because it takes me out of my own head and it makes me more empathetic. And I'll end up having a great time at a party because I've done that. So I think most people would describe me as an extrovert. I was class clown, that kind of thing. But really, I'm an introvert.
Well, you fooled me. I did not have my shock-proof face on when you said that. Where did you learn that skill? I think that is something that so many people struggle with.
Where did I learn that? Books, other mentors. I've had people tell me, other people have just told me to do that. If you're feeling insecure at a party, go talk to the children or play with the animals. You find somebody that you can relate to. There's all of us, all of humanity, we're all looking for connection. And then the fact is that I think a lot of us walk around this world feeling less than. Mm-hmm. And so if you get out of if you stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about someone else, ask someone to tell them about what's going on in their life, you can really form a connection. Now, probably I also learned that as a newspaper reporter and in college as a journalism student, they would make us do crazy assignments like go get in an elevator and interview somebody in that elevator. Well, nobody wants to talk to somebody in an elevator, but I had to do that for class. So probably a combination of just mentors in my life and also training as a journalist have helped me with that.
So tell me, what has been something really fun that means a lot to you that you have acquired since joining the governing council? Any swag or keepsakes, anything you've received from the council members or from Kaio Mega?
Yeah, first of all, this badge was worn by every other S.T.B. So that's pretty cool to think about. Rosalind Dabbs wore this badge and Joellen Sullivan wore this badge. That's pretty cool. Anna Buckner wore this badge. And then also, I didn't know that governing council members get a ring. So I got a special ring, which is very, very cool. I love wearing it.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kelly. And thank you so much for continuing to serve Kaio Mega. We are so excited and have had the best time with you as a new governing council member. Before you go, do you have anything else that you'd like to share?
Yes. To whom much is given, much is expected. All of us are so blessed to be Kaio Megas. We've been chosen to be Kaio Megas, and we have chosen Kaio Mega. And with that comes the responsibility to serve the world while keeping Kaio Mega values ever at heart. And each person watching this show has special talents that only they have. So I encourage you to go out and use your talents to make this world a better place.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Such great words to end with. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know our amazing S.T.B. Be sure to keep tuning into our podcast for more exciting episodes we've got coming up. And don't forget to follow us on social media so you don't miss out on our next CAIO conversation.